Hello and welcome to PharmaFlix. My name is Ajaz, and I am a pharmacy professional who enjoys sharing medicine and healthcare awareness information in a simple and easy-to-understand manner. In today's video, we will discuss.
There is a muscle hiding inside your lower leg right now, and most people have never heard its name. It sits deep behind your shin bone, tucked under the bigger calf muscle you can actually see. You cannot spot it in the mirror. Most days, you probably do not even feel it. But this small hidden muscle has a strange superpower. When it goes to work, it can pull sugar straight out of your blood without your pancreas lifting a finger. A peer-reviewed study from the University of Houston put real numbers on it. People who switch this muscle on while sitting down, yes, sitting, cut their after-meal blood sugar spike by roughly half. No gym, no diet, no medications, just one tiny movement at a desk. And once you understand how it works, you will stop blaming that post-lunch crash on getting older or on a heavy meal. Before we get into it, if you want health information explained the way it should be explained, give this video a like and hit subscribe. The goal is 300,000 subscribers. Let's get into what is actually happening in your body. To understand the after-meal crash, you first have to understand glucose. Glucose is sugar in its simplest form, and it is fuel. That word matters. Every cell in your body runs on it. Your muscles burn it, your liver stores it, and your brain, this is the important part, depends on it almost completely. Cut glucose off from your brain for more than a few minutes, and you stop thinking clearly. So glucose is not the enemy. It is a basic, non-negotiable requirement for staying alive. The problem is never glucose itself. The problem is what happens when too much of it shows up in your bloodstream too fast, and your body has nothing useful to do with it. When you eat carbohydrates, things like bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, anything sweet, and yes, even some fruit, your digestive system breaks all of it down into glucose. The glucose enters your bloodstream. This is normal. This is supposed to happen. The trouble starts when a lot of glucose arrives at once. Picture a garden hose with a tap turned on gently. Water flows through, the hose holds its shape, everything is fine. Now imagine someone cranks that tap wide open. The hose bulges, the walls strain. That is roughly what your blood vessels deal with during a sharp sugar spike. Your body notices this surge right away and sends a message to your pancreas, a small organ tucked behind your stomach. The message is simple: release insulin and release it fast. Insulin is a hormone, and you can think of it as a delivery worker. Its job is to grab glucose out of the blood and shuttle it into cells where it can be used or stored. Some of it goes to your muscles, a lot of it goes to your liver, where it gets packed away as something called glycogen, which is basically your body's emergency fuel reserve. But here is where it gets interesting. If your muscles are already topped up and your liver is already full, and you are sitting still on the couch after dinner, your body still has to do something with the leftover glucose. It does not just throw it away. It tucks it into your fat cells, and once it goes in there, it is very, very hard to get back out. Meanwhile, your hard-working insulin has done its job almost too well. It has shoved so much glucose out of your blood that your sugar level drops sometimes lower than where it started before you eat. This is the crash, and this is where the symptoms millions of people describe every single day come from. Your blood sugar drops fast, and your brain, which lives on glucose, panics. It sends out an alarm. Energy is running low. Fix this now. A wave of tiredness washes over you. Your head feels foggy. Your thoughts get slow and sticky. Your eyelids feel heavy. And then comes that very specific, almost desperate craving for something sweet right now. A cookie, a candy bar, a handful of chocolate from the office kitchen. This is not weakness, and it is not a lack of willpower. It has nothing to do with your character. It is pure chemistry. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do, protecting itself from running out of fuel by demanding more. Sugar went up fast, sugar came down fast, and now your brain is in energy conservation mode. It slows down everything that is not urgent, so it can keep the essential functions running. That is what is really happening when you hit a wall at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There is a case from clinical practice that captures this perfectly. A woman named Linda, around 44, works as an accountant. Smart, capable, sharp in the morning, but every afternoon after lunch she hits a wall. Her head goes foggy. She cannot concentrate on the numbers in front of her. And like clockwork, around 3 o'clock, she walks down the hall to the vending machine and buys a chocolate bar. For years, she told herself the same story, that she just had a sweet tooth, that she just had no discipline. But that was never the truth. Her brain was running the same biochemical cycle every single afternoon. The chocolate pushed her glucose back up, then it crashed again. By 6 o'clock in the evening, she felt completely wrung out, even though her actual workload that day was nothing unusual. She was not exhausted from work. She was exhausted from a blood sugar roller coaster nobody had ever explained to her. And every single one of those roller coasters cost you something. Every spike forces your pancreas to fire off more insulin. Once, twice, 100 times, 1,000 times, over the course of years, and eventually the bill comes due. If any of this is starting to sound like your day, hit the like button. It helps other people who live with this exact pattern find this video. So what is the long-term damage? Here is the thing. Your pancreas is not infinite. It has a working life, and every excessive insulin release wears it down a little. At first, it keeps up easily. Then it slows down. Then your cells start to ignore the insulin signal. This condition has a name: insulin resistance. In plain terms, it means there is plenty of insulin in your blood, but your cells have stopped listening to it. The key is there. The lock is there, but the lock is jammed. To force glucose into the cell anyway, your pancreas has to release even more insulin, more and more year after year, working harder and harder for less and less in return. The tricky part is that for a long time, your routine blood work can still look fine. There is no diagnosis, no flashing red light, but the fatigue is real. The belly fat is creeping in. The cravings will not let up. You live with all of this for years and cannot point to anything wrong. It feels too early to bother a doctor because nothing is dramatically broken, but something is off. And ironically, this exact moment, when nothing is officially wrong yet, is the easiest possible time to turn things around. Here is another pattern that shows up all the time in primary care. A man named Mike, 52, walks into his doctor's office complaining about back pain. Nothing to do with sugar, right? But during the conversation, he mentions in passing that for the last 3 years or so, he is hungry all the time, even right after a full meal. An hour later, he is hungry again. The doctor sends him for blood work. His fasting glucose comes back at the very top of the normal range. Not diabetes, not even officially prediabetes, but to an experienced clinician, that number tells a story. The pancreas is running near its limit. The reserve is shrinking. The only reason nobody had mentioned it before is that on paper, everything looked technically fine. If this whole process is not interrupted, insulin resistance eventually slides into prediabetes. Prediabetes slides into type 2 diabetes. And once you are dealing with type 2 diabetes, the complications start showing up. Damage to your blood vessels, problems with your vision, kidney trouble, slow healing wounds on your feet. This is not a scare story. This is what medical practices in the United States see every single week. But here's the good news. While your numbers are still in range, all of this can be stopped, slowed, and in many cases reversed. And the tool you need is simpler than you think. That tool is your own muscles. Inside every muscle cell, there are tiny structures called mitochondria. You do not have to remember the word. What matters is what they do. They work like little furnaces. They grab glucose out of your blood, burn it, and turn it into energy for movement and heat. While you are sitting completely still, those furnaces are running on a low pilot light. They need almost no fuel. But the second a muscle starts to contract, those furnaces flare up. They start burning glucose at a much higher rate. Here is where it gets really interesting. Normally, glucose has to use insulin as a key to unlock the cell door. No insulin, no entry. But a working muscle has a back door. It opens its own door, no key required. This is a completely separate biological mechanism, and it kicks in the moment a muscle contracts. Glucose flows straight from the bloodstream into the muscle cell. Your pancreas does not even need to get involved. Your blood sugar drops, your insulin stays calm, the roller coaster never gets going. This is why the 90 minutes after a meal are the most valuable window of the day for your metabolism. That is when glucose is rising. That is the exact moment when your muscles can grab it directly, before it has a chance to get stashed away in your fat cells, and before your pancreas has to fire up another big insulin release. So which muscle does this job best? That is where the hidden muscle in your calf comes back into the story. But first, one quick note. Muscle activity really does control blood sugar, and the science on this is settled, but it only works if you do it consistently. One walk after one meal helps that one meal. A daily habit of moving after meals slowly rewires how your whole body handles glucose. Your cells become more sensitive to insulin, your muscles become hungrier for sugar, your whole metabolism shifts. The magic word here is consistency, not intensity. Now, the muscle. On the back of your lower leg, just below the knee, there are two main muscles stacked on top of each other. The one you can see, the bulge in your calf, is called the gastrocnemius. That is the muscle that flexes when you stand on your toes. But underneath it, deeper inside the leg, sits a second muscle called the soleus. Most people have no idea it is there. It does not show in the mirror. You cannot really feel it on its own, and yet, pound for pound, when it comes to pulling glucose out of your bloodstream, no other muscle in your body matches it. A few years ago, researchers at the University of Houston ran an experiment that turned a lot of heads in the science world. Their study was published in the peer-reviewed journal iScience in the year 2022. They had people sit in a chair and do one very simple movement after eating, lifting and lowering their heels while keeping the toes on the floor. You could be working at a computer, watching television, talking on the phone. Nothing about your day had to change. The only thing moving was the back of your foot. The results stunned even the researchers themselves. The after-meal glucose spike dropped by roughly 52%. Insulin release dropped by close to 60%. That second number is huge. It means the pancreas barely had to engage. The soleus was pulling glucose out of the bloodstream so fast that a big insulin response simply was not needed. You can try this right now while you are watching this video. Plant both feet flat on the floor. Keep your toes pressed down. Now, just lift your heels up slowly and let them back down. Up, down at your own pace. No rush, no force. You can do this at your desk. You can do it on the couch. You can do it in a coffee shop and nobody around you will even notice. 10 to 15 minutes of this after a meal is enough to make a real measurable difference. The soleus is the most efficient single tool, but it is not the only one. The more muscles you get involved after a meal, your legs, back, core, and arms, the more glucose leaves your bloodstream and the faster it goes. There are a few more options, and all of them fit into a normal day without any special planning. The first is a walk after eating. In one study, 2 groups were given the same meal. One group sat quietly afterward. The other group took a 10-minute walk at an easy pace. The walking group's blood sugar peak was roughly half of what the sitting group experienced. We are not talking about an hour on the treadmill. We are not talking about interval training. 10 minutes, easy pace. The route does not matter. You can step outside. You can walk laps around your living room while scrolling your phone. You can climb the stairs in your building a few times. The only rule is to move instead of sitting. The second option is squats, and they work even faster. The reason is simple. Squats fire up the biggest muscles in your entire body, your thighs, and your glutes. Bigger muscle, more glucose pulled out per minute. The technique is straightforward. Stand tall, feet about shoulder width apart, toes pointed slightly outward. Lower yourself down as far as feels comfortable. You do not need to hit parallel with the floor. Keep your back straight. Let your knees track in the same direction as your toes so they do not collapse inward. Then, push back up. Do 10 of them, slow and controlled. A great trick is to anchor it to your kettle. Turn the kettle on for your after-dinner tea, and while it heats up, do your set. That is roughly the right amount of time to give your glucose somewhere to go. And the last tool is the most underrated of all, housework. People already do it. The problem is, they usually do it before they eat, or an hour later, once the sugar has already gone where it wants to go. The trick is to do it right after eating. 15 minutes of cleaning up after dinner is, in terms of glucose control, roughly equivalent to a 10-minute walk. Wash the dishes by hand. You are standing, you are moving. Wipe down the counters, sweep the kitchen floor, put things back where they belong. Your body is moving. Your muscles are working. Your glucose is going somewhere useful. You do not even need motivation for this because you were going to do it anyway. Here is what I love about these 4 tools. You do not need to rearrange your life around them. You do not need to wake up earlier. You do not need a gym membership, which can run you anywhere from $20 a month to a couple hundred. You do not need workout clothes. You do not need a personal trainer. You just stop sitting still for 10 or 15 minutes after you eat. Or if you really want to sit, then sit and wiggle your heels. That is it. Now, there is one pattern here worth pointing out on its own. How fast insulin resistance develops and how fast you can rebuild insulin sensitivity depends a lot on your age. After 40, muscle mass naturally starts to decline if you do not actively maintain it. Doctors call this sarcopenia. Less muscle means a smaller glucose disposal system. A smaller disposal system means more pressure on the pancreas. More pressure means the roller coaster gets louder. Drop a quick comment below with your age. It really helps me understand who is watching and how relevant this topic is for our audience right now. Let's pull it all together. In the short term, if you start moving right after meals, you will feel the difference within a few days. That post-lunch fog will fade, your head will feel clearer in the afternoon, your energy will stop falling off a cliff an hour after eating, and that pulling, urgent craving for something sweet will quietly start to lose its grip. In the long term, you are doing something even more important. You are taking the load off your pancreas. Every time your muscles handle glucose directly, your pancreas gets a break. Year after year, those breaks add up. That is the difference between staying metabolically healthy into your 60s and 70s and slowly drifting toward insulin resistance, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes. So, here is what is worth doing in practice. Pay attention to what you actually do in the first 15 to 20 minutes after a meal. Try those seated heel raises at least once today and see how you feel. It is worth bringing up your fasting glucose number with your doctor at your next appointment. And if they think it makes sense, asking about hemoglobin A1C as well, which is a blood test that shows your average blood sugar over the past 3 months. If you are already on medications like metformin or supplements like berberine or magnesium glycinate that some people take for blood sugar support, those are absolutely conversations to have with your provider, not with a YouTube channel. Take what is useful from this video, but run it past someone who knows your full health picture before you change anything. If you got something out of this, drop a like and subscribe. That is what helps this channel keep growing. The goal here is 300,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps get us closer. For the practical takeaway version of this video, scan the QR code on your screen. That's my Telegram channel, where the checklists and follow-up posts live.